Welcome to the Inside Housing Podcast, where we break down the housing process, real estate, and investing. Here we go. All right. Welcome, Stacy, Inside Housing Podcast. Glad you can make it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So why don't you start by telling us who you are and what do you do and what you're here to talk about today?
That's great. My name's Stacy Andre. I'm on a governor's initiative, a special project called the Mobile Home Infill Program. I am co-chair of the program back in 2023 and 2024 as Vermont experienced heavy flooding and we became a housing crisis. And so the governor put together our program to address the housing situation and come up with solutions. And the Mobile Home Infill Program was born.
So the program came before the executive order, or the executive order was a offshoot of the program, an initiative?
So there's really two executive orders right now. The first one that really started the Mobile Home Infill Program was back in 2023. It was really to set the pace for a rapid response mobile home infill program and to create a task force that I'm co-chairing. So that was really Governor Scott's initiative and vision to bring affordably priced homes to Vermonters.
When that was started, was there a particular reason that it was selected as mobile homes? How did that come about? And I just say it from my perspective because, so I'm in real estate, and so the housing crisis, as I like to call it, I had Kevin Chu on last week, and we got deep into the data.
Yep.
And there's so many different kinds of housing, right? From condos, townhouses, and then you have single-family homes, and then mobile homes are a part of that. And mobile homes they're getting better and better. And a lot of people have this thought of mobile homes, but really maybe it's just smaller houses. So how did that come about as the starting point? And then what are you seeing in terms of mobile homes and what they're like and how that's working?
Yeah, great questions. There really was a reason to start with the mobile home is an old term, and really they have come a long way, and they're really called manufactured homes. And they're amazing. They're built under HUD requirements. They're built in a factory. So they're built off-site, but very stringent requirements. And then they're installed on improved lots. So really the idea to pick manufactured homes in this situation was to really have a now answer. And so it was, what could we do now to be able to provide homes to people that were displaced, flood survivors, and people that need homes. We have some workforce issues, trying to retain employees, trying to attract employees, keep our seniors housed, maybe some downsizing. So it's a really attractive option. And so it was, how could we work with what we had for an existing infrastructure and manufactured parks? We had a list from our Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and the manufactured home communities register yearly.
Okay.
So we started at that point. And so we really narrowed it down to parks that had infrastructure that had an ability for capacity.
Gotcha.
And what could we expand? So really there were vacant lots within these parks that needed to be improved. And the challenge is that a lot of times home buyers in a park, they're required to do the lot improvement. And that could be between $15,000 to $45,000 just to put a foundation in and get it ready to go to have the house be ready to be lived in. And so that was something that Governor Scott wanted us to really try and come up with a solution. And so we did. And so our program really was geared on improving the lots and then working with a housing partner that was familiar with managing parks to help us purchase and install the homes for home ready, move-in ready, really.
Move-in ready.
Yeah.
So immediate homes right now.
right now. And so that's what we did. Once we got the go ahead in August of 20, once we got the go ahead and the financial means through an emergency order, we ordered 30 homes, and within 3 months we had 30 homes installed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that fast, and really trying to navigate all the different permitting, the requirements, municipal approvals. There was just so much. And these parks were already approved and permitted to have these. So it came to us as a surprise, all the extra legwork that it took to get these in. We had the power of the state, so we were really lucky to have a cross-agency support. We worked with Agency of Natural Resources and DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, Public Safety, Agency of Transportation, Health and Human Services. So we pulled in everyone that we could to be able to expedite this as quickly as possible. And we were successful because we could get everybody to the table. And so that was really a landmark thing, is how many agencies can you pull in to be able to do a singular focus and get this project done. And so that was, I'd say that was really a success.
So that started in August, but in 3 months, you already had, at that point, roughly around 30 homes basically on site, ready to go.
Yes.
Now, the Vermonter who was interested in it could just go out and purchase it. And so were the prices set at a rate that just made it affordable?
Yeah, we really thought hard about this, and the governor really wanted to make sure that these prices were approachable and that people could move in right away. So he really wanted us to prioritize those two things when looking at the homes. So we really tried, and based on the data, we had pulled the housing needs assessment report, and that report really shows that most towns and areas around here need housing, and really focus on maybe not so much the Chittenden County area. They have been really successful in building, but the other smaller, more rural, for example, the Northeast Kingdom areas, how do you get houses there? And so this was a really great entry point. And so we concentrated on homes that were 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, a little bit smaller units at the beginning to really get them going based on the housing needs assessment, pricing between $85,000 and $95,000.
And when individuals were purchasing those homes, now they're on parks, right? So they're not owning the land, but they are actually owning the homes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So they're coming in, and therefore, if the interest was to build up equity, stuff like that, they're getting that.
So what we did is we went around and spoke to all sorts of different park owners. So these are nonprofit and privately owned managed parks. So it's a whole combination. So we have all different kinds of parks available. Some have bigger lots, some have a little bit smaller just because of the way it was built or the location, and wrote an agreement with them that they would help us to get potential home buyers in there. So the mobile home infill program really is 4 steps to entry. So it's you must live or work in Vermont, so it's really geared towards Vermonters. You must have it as your primary residence for at least the first 12 months.
Okay.
And you must qualify. So we used the HUD rental standards, and it's at 140% AMI. And
what does AMI stand for?
Yeah, that's area median income. So it's by county, and HUD comes out with their rental estimates and maximum amount of incomes every year. So in April, May, they post these rates. And so for right now, a single person that's interested in purchasing one of these homes, they need to make about $109,000 or less. So it's very approachable. We really tried to make it for the working couple, family.
And that would make sense because the medium single family home right now in Vermont is just over 400,000. So it's pricing out a lot of individuals who are trying to get into their first home, trying to move out of the renter class into the home ownership. And so to have anything priced, and I can tell you from my own experience, it is almost impossible right now to find a home of any quality for under $200,000-$300,000 sometimes. So there's a clear benefit to this, and you already have Vermonters getting in, and it seems to be working. Then you progress, and then the executive order comes out. And just broadly, you already have this program. So the executive order, is it meant to fast track some of the processes to grow the program? Like, where does that come in as an extra push?
Let me back you up a little bit, because the executive order really kicked us off originally. So we did some background information, but we really were not able to do anything of substance until the executive order came out. Then it was everyone's running, doing, going, construction's happening, bids are going out, homes are being purchased and placed. It was a busy 3 months to December. So between August and December, we had, and this is on a skeleton crew. It's myself, my co-chair, Mike Booth, a couple of folks, and then we had a subject matter expert team that was assigned to us. So a representative from each of the agencies, which was so helpful. So we would reach out to those folks to really help connect us and fast track the unit generation. So that was really helpful and help us find answers quicker. So there was just all sorts of things that were happening to help us, lead us to doing things faster and better and streamlining within the state agency. And so that was really exciting and rewarding to be able to work with people, go, yeah, I know where you can get the answer. Yes, I can help you with that. So we really got to see the good parts of the state come to fruition. And then what we did, Rennick, is then our money, the way that we got the funding, it was a very low amount of money. We used part of it to improve lots. And so we were doing that, identifying lots, making sure that the septic and the electric and everything was up to be able to handle a new home in the park and individually on the lot. So there was a lot of back checking. And while that was going on the other side, we were continuing to purchase more homes. So the idea is that when we sell homes, we replenish the fund to purchase more homes. And so that's what we were doing. So as we were selling them, we were purchasing more homes and placing them in. So based on the feedback of the initial round, they said, well, we want more 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. Could you help us with those? So that was our next round, was really focused on 2 bedroom, 2 baths, and 3 bedroom, 2 baths. So it was, okay, let's start an entry point, keep expanding on what the home buyer or the customer would like, our Vermont customer, and to make sure that happens. And so that's what we did. And so now our range is from 1 bedroom, 1 bath to 3 bedroom, 2 baths, at the range from 85,000 to 110,000. It didn't go up that much more to get that much of a bigger home. It's different configurations. Really tried to make the fits and the finishes unique and thoughtful. The design is definitely built for the Vermont winters. So the insulation, we chose insulated insulation at the bottom to make sure that the home can stay cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And we put a 200 amp service to each home so that they could upgrade as they chose if they wanted to add, say, solar or a panel to electrify their car, or maybe a heat pump or something like that. So we really tried to make it homeowner friendly. I want to move here, and they're beautiful. I can't say enough about it. We put engineered flooring in all of them. We have different wood finishes. They all come with window treatments, and they all come with washers and dryers. So it is truly move-in ready.
So they're really, what it's doing is actually creating, and I don't know, is like the term mobile home. it just sometimes it has a certain connotation versus manufactured, right? You're
Yeah.
basically making affordable housing that can go in whether it's part of a park or not. And so you said in the beginning it was around 30 and it kicked off, January comes in. So we're entering into June soon. So what are the numbers like today?
Yeah.
Because, and I say that understanding that the numbers that are thrown out there right now are Vermont needs between 24,000 and 36,000 homes between now and the next 5 years. So, where are the numbers for this?
Yes. Compared to those numbers, we're a drop in the bucket, but it's a start.
It is a start.
And so today, over the last summer, our last construction season, we ended up closing out the season with 77 homes installed, ready for purchase. Right now, we've already sold over 50 homes.
Okay, wow.
So we're really excited to be able to bring this to folks. Not all are first-time home buyers. Some are downsizing. Some are trying to be closer to their kids or get into a different school district or be closer to their job or move here because of the job. So it's really exciting to see. And they're all located all up and down the whole state of Vermont.
So let's get to that a little bit. There are certain areas, and let me preface this question by saying that in order for these homes to be installed, they have to go into existing parks, right?
Yes.
So is the focus in particular counties, areas? You mentioned the Northeast Kingdom. You mentioned maybe not as much in Chittenden County. So is there what's the reason behind where the homes are going? And the other question I want to ask is, can this be done outside of parks? In other words, is there land or communities available where then you can just put manufactured homes, that it doesn't necessarily have to be in a park? And is there the possibility of having land with it, right? Because a lot of people want to own the land.
So the mobile home infill program really was to jumpstart unit generation, to get homes into the communities that don't normally see or have new construction. And we have right now, we're in 12 counties, we're in 26 parks, and we have improved over 100 lots to date. So we're now just waiting for our springtime to finally get here to start construction again.
It's on and off.
It's on and off. I don't know. And really trying to focus. And I say, oh, we didn't go into Chittenden. We did. Of course we did. There's a wonderful park in North Avenue that had a couple available lots. They had some abandoned homes that needed to be removed, and they did that. And we put in some homes in there. So we're working with participating parks that want to see improvement and help bring affordably priced homes to market.
So the homes are going into a variety of different places, and it seems to be covering a lot of the state. So it's
Yes.
not concentrated. You have up north, you have the different counties, and you said around 12 counties.
Yes.
What are the limitations of where it can or can't go? Is that coming from just the geography of how far it is, or is there a certain participation? You said parks have to buy in. So where is the limitation in terms of where can the houses go?
The first go round, and really even the second, was us pitching the ideas to the park owners to participate with our program. And so it was really getting the level of buy-in. And we put an email out several times. We have access to all the parks in the state from the registry, and sent several inquiries out. And then really it came down to which parks could participate with the program. Infrastructure being out of the flood zone was very critical. We didn't want to repeat that at all. It was really who was offering their lots and parks. And then we did investigative work from there to determine best fit. So we really tried to spread it out and to give to the communities that, again, don't really get homes too often. So
And I think the big thing is that these are new homes.
they're brand new.
I see a lot from a real estate agent perspective. We tend to be turning over a lot of the same homes. So this program is giving new homes that otherwise wouldn't be there, or replacing ones that were unserviceable or abandoned or whatever it is. So it's good. So it sounds like a needed program. What's the goal? If you had, because I'm sure there's some challenges, and we haven't even touched on permitting yet.
Yeah.
But like, what would be the goal for this particular program if you could remove a lot of the constraints?
I think our number one constraint was permitting, really. And that was surprising only because we thought going into existing manufactured home parks that were already approved to be there, naively, that was a naive first blush as when you get into things can get very complicated really quickly.
What's not surprising about that, but also surprising for a lot of people I work with, is the amount, any sort of small change that you would just think inherently isn't a big deal becomes a big deal. So what was your experience in terms of the permitting part and realizing you also have the state behind you? Where were those roadblocks?
Yeah, we tried, or we thought we tried, to smooth out most of those roadblocks ahead of time or while we were first trying for the first tranche of homes and working with our partners to get the permits. We didn't realize, though, that we needed the local, municipal, town permitting. Normally, in a normal situation, a home buyer or the vendor would be responsible for those permits. We shifted that and put it to the park owner. And so that was a little bit of surprise for them as well, not normally getting these permits. So it was good in the long run for that, because it opened our eyes to how many steps it took or takes to get an approval for a home to be placed in an existing space.
Existing lot.
So that was really surprising, and that it's different in every single town.
It is.
Every town. So you might get it down for this one town, but you got to do it different for this other town. And so that was really interesting, to say the least.
This may be off topic, so feel free to pass on it. But is the permitting process, which has multiple layers, right? So it's held at a local level, and then there's federal permitting or state permitting. Does that make it all the way up to the governor's office in terms of what else could be streamlined about this process? Because again, when you factor that in with what we're hearing right now with Act 181 and those kind of things, the permitting just keeps coming up. So in your experience, when you're seeing it, what takeaways did you have from going through that permitting process?
There were certainly a lot of lessons learned. And while there's all sorts of other major constraints that we found besides permitting, such as infrastructure, permitting really was one of the things we felt we could learn from. Like, where could we take this if we were all going the same way and being aware of what everyone else was doing or what they needed? And so that really was like, okay, how could we take that information that we've taken from this successful program, the mobile home infill program, and then relay it to something else so that we could not make those mistakes again or try to learn from it. And so that really brings us to the next executive order, which was most recent, the executive order also on housing and construction rehabilitation. And Governor Scott really wanted to emphasize and highlight the streamlining of permitting reform. What can we do, not only as the state itself, but the entire state? What does that look like? Could we look at our timelines, our fees, our regulatory processes, administrative reviews, technical reviews? Where could we make these changes so that we could save money and we could save time and we could save effort and really be transparent and predictable? And so that was really something that Governor Scott really wants this next executive order to really focus on.
Now, has that already come out, or is that
Yeah, so back in December of 2025, he issued Executive Order 06-25, I believe. And in that, among other initiatives of pulling forward housing and really trying to bring forward solutions for the housing crisis that we're in, he had put specific things in there about permit modernization. And I am on another task force, dual task force. This one is a multidisciplinary team, and he has asked us to come together as a state and work together on one single goal of accelerating the housing and really focus all of our efforts on that. And how do we align on that?
So that in of itself is huge.
Yeah.
Because the ability to take space or land or take existing lots and change them, build on them, spur that kind of growth, it's what's needed. Right? The data shows it that we need to create more space. So with that, how is that going since that initiative has come out?
Yeah, since the initiative, we had a series of workshops with all of the agencies and departments that do housing permits or are within the housing permit purview. So they have some sort of say. And it was, I think at the last count, 8 different agencies and departments.
So why is that? And explain it from, if somebody's listening and they don't understand all the nuance, what are the layers? Like, why is there 8 agencies involved in the permitting process? If we're talking one lot somewhere in Vermont outside of, let's say, Franklin County, and you want to build in it, why is there 8 agencies that have a role in obtaining that permit? And is that just from the state? And we're not talking about what the local has to do with it? How would you explain it to someone who just doesn't understand?
And that's true. There are some parameters on this. So I'll back up a little bit. So back in 2018, Governor Scott had put together a Homes for All initiative and focused funds to really try and do a permitting reform initiative at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was going. They had work groups, they had focus groups, all internally, and really to come up with what happens, not so much in the single family home residence realm, but what happens after 4 units and above. That really gets all the different agencies and departments activated. Gotcha. That's when the state starts stepping in. Anything under 4 units is really more locally served, maybe a sprinkling of the state oversight, but for the most part, it's 4 units is that magic number. Anything over 4 units.
Now, when you say 4 unit, is it a 4 unit or is it building 4 units, even if they're separate?
Both.
Both.
Yes,
okay.
It depends on if it's 4 units in a subdivision, that could be considered 4 units. It could be 4 units as a multifamily. It was something I learned too, so that was interesting. And so back in 2018, they worked on this for quite some time, and they came up with a permitting reform action plan and some key metrics that they wanted to identify. And then COVID happened. And so that whole project got shelved. And so now it's bringing it back to life and saying, okay, based on today's current situation with our housing needs, we are in a true housing crisis.
We are.
And the flooding and your lessons learned. What could we do with all of that? How could we take your jump-starting, fast-tracking, project-based model that you used in the mobile home infill program and take it to the permitting reform modernization initiative? How can you make it so that we can streamline and align it? And so that's really where those two kind of converge and connect. And while mobile home infill project talks about the now homes, the permitting reform is for what can happen for future homes. And how can we take the state, for right now, we're concentrating on the state. How can we get our shop in order so that we're all aligned, working together?
So it's really a analysis of the streamlining of the process to be able to build and construct more, minimizing the red tape.
That's the ideal state.
So how's that going?
It's going. We had about 6 workshops. We really made sure everyone came to the table that had a stake in this. And right now, while we started internally, the whole point of this is we have to actually flip the script a little bit and have it customer first or Vermonter first. And that hasn't really happened. I mean, the state, they really do try to do their best. They are individually, each department, agency, they're trying. They're trying to make sense of the rules and the regulations that they have that they're working with today. But they're not working together. So there's no inner highway of information being shared. So when you asked me, walk me through a person trying to get a permit. Okay, so you're a consultant trying to help your client put in a 5-unit, multi-unit. So they have to go to the state and figure out which agency they need to go to, which permit they need, how to read all the regulations and the rules and regulations. Maybe perhaps go down and do a couple permits and then realize they're the wrong permits. They may get themselves all the way to Act 250 and then might be missing a permit and have to go get another permit. Say they forgot they needed a curb cut and they needed approval from the Agency of Transportation. And so they need to do their little 2-page form and plans to get that approved.
So is there no centralized location where all this information exists? Where if I find, and again, these are real scenarios and situations that myself and agents I know find themselves in. Someone comes in and they say, this 10 acres, great, I'm going to buy the land. So you buy the land, or ahead of buying the land, you say, I'd like to put in 5 units, even if it was 5 single family homes. That individual now doesn't have a centralized location or place to go that the various different agencies that would need to be involved in the permitting can all talk to each other so that you can just be like, this is what I do. This is a set of instructions. That doesn't exist now.
It does not. That's our hope. After all of these workshops, really what came to the top was we need a one-stop in shop for permitting, but really on 2 sides. One for the applicant and one for a portal for the other agencies so they can see what's happening. So say you want to go in and you want to check out this 10 acres and build 5 homes on there. As an applicant, you should be able to enter your profile, put your information in, pull up on a map. Oh, here's the parcel I'm thinking. And it tells you what permits, core permits might be needed and possible permits that you might need. And then be able to go through that process.
So that sounds just so logical. This may seem like a silly question, but if we don't have that, what is preventing from doing that?
Cost and time, right? And that's what we're doing right now. And really what we heard was we need to focus on the customer-centered focus. What do you see when you go in? What do you need? What are your questions that you'll be asking when you go into this system? Or accessing the state. You're trying to build homes. You're not trying to figure out the state's spaghetti behind the backdrop. You're trying to figure out what you need to do to move it forward and make financial or investment decisions or home decisions.
And this is my mind trying to work in real time, understanding it. That seems like the logical thing that if we don't have it, we need it. And it seems like that's the intent behind the executive order, which is like, okay, let's streamline this, make it simpler and more transparent and easier for the consumer and quicker. If the intent's known and that's being worked on, what are roadblocks? You said, is it like a man-hour thing? Is it just the time it takes to build it? Is it there's other things that are preventing that from happening? And I say that because the more I learn about the housing issues that we have here, I'm starting to see at times that the way we do things and the convoluted way, it's almost on purpose to prevent the ability to easily grow. And what are you seeing as potentially some of the reasons for those roadblocks? That's a big question.
It
But
is. And so I guess I'm going to, as a state employee, because I am a state employee, there are some great people that work for the state. I'll put that out there. There are also people that want to make improvements like this. And I think it really is one of those across the board aisles, all agencies would like to do something. And I think sometimes they feel that they're so deep into their systems, it's hard to see that path. They feel like they would have to undo or conform to a different type of system or a very expensive system. And I've been working with, so our agency of digital services are phenomenal. And so they're helping to facilitate these talks. And we're not leading with technology, we're really leading with, as the human aspect of this, and us people working together, what do we need to be able to do our jobs and to perform it efficiently and effectively? To really get past the common complaint we always hear is the application wasn't completely filled out correctly, or they were missing some information. Well, how can we get it so that you get a good application? What does that take? What can we do so that the customer knows what to give you, how to give it to you, and when? And then on the flip side is, when is enough? Like, when are you administratively complete so that we can use your expertise in whatever field it is to have that technical review that's vital. Really trying to marry those ideas and concepts together. And in April, I say we, our group for ADS, the Agency of Digital Services, myself, and our secretary, Curly, from Commerce and Community Development, who's heading this. We met with the Vermont Economic Caucus and presented our latest findings and what we're doing in the background, and presented a prototype of what the one-stop shop portal could look like. And so it has an entry point for customers and an entry point for the agencies. And the beautiful thing is it helps address both sides of the equation. So what does the customer need? And we got those through talks with consultants and real estate brokers and home buyers and people, small builders and developers, and what did they need? And then on the other side, what does the state need to be able to make good decisions to be able to move it through? And so we heard their call that we don't want to change our hardened systems because that's very expensive. So really this one stop is a bridge, and it will bring the information in, and it's a portal so that they can see what other agencies are doing and where in the process the permit is. And on the applicant side, they'll be able to know exactly where it is as well. So really we wanted to make it a communication portal. So it's customer-centered, customer-focused, because really we have external customers, but we also have internal customers, and they both need this information. So we figured if we could put it all in one place. We're talking, Rednick, like one thing that we didn't have is an ID for a project. Like just that simple thing. To be able to go, I want those 5 units. Was it 5 units or is it 5 homes? Is it one parcel or multiple parcels? Is it subdivision or I'm not sure. It all depended on how it was entered into the system originally. And then it depended on what everybody else was doing. So just collectively having one ID to identify that going through the process, we now can say, okay, where is that project that you were doing? Oh, it's over here. And what do you need for that? Oh, we can get you that and prioritize that housing development.
the concept and what you're working on, one, it sounds like it's very difficult to figure that out, especially when you're starting. So to be able to get to the point where you can even clearly identify the need and map out, okay, this is something that would change it and help. So I see it, and I don't envy the amount of work that you're trying to do to figure it out. And so I'm hopeful that continues to grow and do better. My question based off that is, so that's the process, that's the system, that makes a lot of sense. That's one part that really needs to be done. What about the permitting cost? Or is that sort of like addressed separately? Or would this decrease the cost? Because the big thing that I hear all the time, I was showing a house the other day and someone was saying, yes, I would like to do this, build that, whatever. And they said, yeah, but getting the permit itself is going to cost $25,000 for this, $40,000 for that, and the next thing you know, you haven't even dug ground on your project, and the permit alone has cost you $100,000. And it's not for 20 units; it's for one or two. So, will it help drive down costs? I just kind of want to get a handle on that piece, because it's getting the permits is one, but it's how much the permits cost.
Yeah, that was another thing in the executive order about the fees. And so right now, we're not looking at lowering, and that's not our focus.
Okay,
It's
not the
how to
focus.
get the fees. Maybe is there an opportunity to defer the fees as when you're in building and construction? That's my background is construction management. You have all sorts of pre-construction costs to get to the point of actually lifting the shovel and digging that first pile of dirt. Before you get there, you're building all these costs to be able to get to that point. And right now, currently, the way the state is set up, fees are required at each and every point. And so by the time you may pass one that's maybe quite expensive at the very beginning of your project, and you're taking a loan out on that. And so you're incurring some fees onto it. And so what could we do as a state to defer that so it's closer to the time of the construction, or even within the construction field? We're still exploring all those options, but to really lessen the burden, get it closer to the time where they can turn the unit maybe at a profit to be able to not have to carry those costs on their books for so long. And also trying to figure that out. Everyone collects at the state their fees differently in different methodologies. So this portal would also be a place for that. So you could see how much it will cost up ahead of time. That was one of the concerns that we did here is clarity of cost and the cost itself. And so I think that was probably on the docket, but right now our focus, or my focus with this permitting modernization and even the fees, is find out how we can streamline it, undo the spaghetti and line it up.
So you picked a job of undoing the spaghetti.
I
so
did.
I wish you luck.
Thank
All right, so that makes a lot of sense. So we've broken down the two different orders and the processes and where you're at. This is a feeling question because I hear it all the time. We talk about it all the time. We know we need more housing in Vermont. We know, like, I had a whole podcast previously on just the data of where we are and what happens if we don't change it. So you're on I call it the front line. You're actually out there either putting manufactured homes on lots for Vermonters to buy, or you are looking at the permitting process and trying to figure out the system. So how do you feel about it? Are you hopeful? Do you feel like we're getting there? Do you feel like there's bigger challenges ahead? Just how are you feeling about being right there on the front line, dealing with this day in and day out, and how that's going to affect Vermont?
As an ever hopeful person, I'm excited to be working with the governor and his team. They're very forward thinking. They understand the challenge ahead. They understand that it's going to take innovative thinking. It's going to take new pathways to do this. They know that we can't keep doing the same old thing and expecting new results. It doesn't work. And they understand that. And so I think they're really taking us at the front line to task and saying, here's our vision. Now go, do, break those barriers, break the ceilings, go ahead and do it. We want to see this successful because we know it can. Use common sense, be financially prudent. What would Vermonters want? It has to be balanced, and we get that. I love living here. I'm a Vermonter through and through, and I enjoy living here. I've raised my kids here, and I want them to raise their kids here. So, how can we build a future that they can afford and be able to be fruitful here? It's a beautiful state, and making sure to take all of that into account to be able to have that kind of future. It's exciting and it's very hopeful.
I love it, Stacy, and
Thanks.
what you're doing is so needed, and so I really have appreciated diving in and understanding it a little bit better. I feel like I have a better concept of what it is and what it's doing, and when you have the right people on the job, that's half the battle. So, kind of wrapping up, where can anybody who wants more information find you, and where can they go to get information, and are there any events, next steps that are coming up that it would good for people to know about?
Yeah, thank you. We just wrapped up a wonderful tour of 10 homes up in the Northeast Kingdom. We had over 50 registrants show up and tour our homes. So that was really exciting. We have some great financial rates to be able to get into these homes affordably. Park owners, some of them are offering waived rent or assistance, additional assistance on the down payment. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're working with our partners to be able to help get as much funding as we can to get folks into homes. So I encourage anyone that is looking for a house and wants a new opportunity and wants to stay in Vermont to come check us out at affordablehomes.vermont.gov. And it's right there, and my name is at the bottom of the list. There's a home for you. We'd love to see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
All
Ron. I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Stacy.